The most powerful man in the room had everything money could buy, but he still did not know who truly cared about him. Damien Callahan had spent his entire life learning one important lesson. Trust was something that had to be earned, never given. As the head of a powerful family, he was surrounded by people who respected his position, but he rarely knew if they respected the person behind it. That uncertainty followed him everywhere, even into his own home. When his mother, Eleanor Callahan, began facing health challenges, Damien noticed something he never expected. The woman he was engaged to, Sophia Bennett, started spending her time caring for his mother without asking for recognition, rewards, or approval. At first, Damien wondered if there was another reason behind her kindness. He had seen too many people act differently when they wanted something from him. In his world, appearances could be misleading, and promises could easily hide intentions. So instead of asking questions, Damien made a decision. He would quietly observe. He wanted to know if Sophia's actions came from genuine compassion or if she was simply playing a role. Sophia had no idea she was being watched. She never tried to impress Damien or prove herself. She simply noticed what Eleanor needed and offered her support. She brought warmth into a home that had become too quiet. She listened to stories from the past, helped with small daily tasks, and treated Eleanor with the same kindness she would show her own family. To Sophia, it was not a strategy. It was simply the right thing to do. Damien watched from a distance, expecting to find signs that something was not real. Instead, he found moments that confused him. He saw Sophia stay by Eleanor's side, even when nobody was around to notice. He saw that her kindness continued even without an audience. Those small moments slowly challenged everything Damien believed about people. Meanwhile, another person in the household noticed what was happening. Amelia Carter, the family's maid, had worked in the Callahan home long enough to understand the difference between performance and sincerity. She saw what Damien was beginning to realize. Sophia was not trying to gain power or status. She was simply caring for someone who needed support. Amelia also noticed something else. Damien, despite his reputation and confidence, was not as certain as everyone believed. Behind his calm expression was a man who had spent years protecting himself from disappointment. As days passed, Damien found himself questioning his own judgment. He expected to uncover hidden motives, but instead he discovered patience, kindness, and honesty. The woman he thought he needed to test was becoming the person who showed him that trust was still possible. Yet Damien still had questions. His past had taught him to be careful, and old habits were difficult to leave behind. He knew that understanding Sophia's heart would require more than observation. It would require him to face the reasons he had stopped believing in people. And as Eleanor's condition brought the family closer together, Damien began to realize that the greatest truth was not always found through suspicion. Sometimes, it was found by paying attention to the actions people took when they believed nobody was watching. Damien Callahan had spent years believing that people revealed their true intentions only when they had something to gain. But every day he watched Sophia Bennett, that belief became harder to maintain. He expected to find a hidden reason behind her actions, yet all he continued to see was genuine care. Sophia never asked Eleanor Callahan about the family's wealth, influence, or reputation. She never tried to use her position as Damien's fiancée to receive special treatment. Instead, she focused on the simple things that made Eleanor feel valued and respected. One morning, Damien quietly observed Sophia, sitting with his mother while they talked about memories from years ago. Eleanor smiled in a way Damien had not seen in a long time. For a moment, he forgot about suspicion and simply noticed the happiness in his mother's expression. It was a small moment, but it carried a meaning he could not ignore. Sophia was bringing comfort into a place that had become filled with distance and responsibility. Damien wondered why someone with no obligation to do these things would choose to care so deeply. The question stayed in his mind throughout the day. Later, Amelia Carter approached Damien while organizing the household schedule. She had noticed his attention towards Sophia and understood what he was trying to discover. Amelia did not accuse him or criticize his choices. She simply reminded him that some people showed their true nature through actions, not words. Damien listened quietly because he knew Amelia had always been observant. She had worked in the Callahan household for years and understood the personalities of everyone around her. Amelia explained that Sophia treated Eleanor with kindness even during moments when Damien was not present. She had seen Sophia stay late to make sure Eleanor was comfortable and offer support without expecting anything in return. These details made Damien pause. He had been looking for a reason to doubt Sophia, but he was finding more reasons to respect her. Meanwhile, Sophia continued her days without knowing the internal struggle Damien was facing. She believed that caring for Eleanor was simply part of being a good person. She did not think about how her actions appeared to others. She was not trying to prove her loyalty. She was simply being herself. That honesty was exactly what made Damien uncertain. He was familiar with people who carefully planned every move, but Sophia seemed different. Her kindness existed even in private moments where nobody could reward her. For the first time in years, Damien found himself questioning whether his constant need for control had prevented him from seeing the truth. He began remembering small details he had previously ignored. Sophia remembering Eleanor's favorite tea. Sophia listening patiently to stories she had already heard. Sophia noticing when Eleanor needed company without being asked. Each memory created another crack in the walls Damien had built around himself. Yet a lifetime of caution did not disappear overnight. Damien still wondered if there was something he did not know. He still believed that every person had a story hidden beneath the surface. But now, instead of searching only for reasons to doubt Sophia, he started searching for reasons to understand her. And while Damien continued observing from a distance, he did not realize that the biggest discovery would not be about Sophia at all. It would be about himself and the reasons he had forgotten how to trust. Damien Callahan had always believed that trust was something earned through proof, not something given through emotions. But as he continued watching Sophia Bennett care for his mother, he began to notice that the evidence he found was changing the way he viewed everything. The woman he expected to expose was becoming the person who challenged his deepest assumptions. Every day brought another moment that made Damien question whether his doubts were protecting him or simply keeping him from seeing the truth. Sophia continued spending time with Eleanor Callahan, creating a sense of comfort inside a home that had been filled with quiet conversations and distant relationships. She encouraged Eleanor to share memories, looked through old family photographs with her, and listened to stories that Damien had heard many times before but rarely had time to appreciate. Sophia was not trying to replace anyone in Eleanor's life. She was simply giving her attention and kindness during a period when she needed it most. Damien noticed that his mother seemed more peaceful whenever Sophia was nearby. That change affected him more than he wanted to admit. He had spent years protecting his family and carrying responsibilities that made him cautious around everyone. But now he was witnessing someone help his family without asking for anything in return. One evening, Damien found himself thinking about the first time he met Sophia. He remembered how confident she appeared, how naturally she carried herself, and how she never seemed impressed by his reputation. At the time, he thought that confidence might have been a carefully created image. Now he wondered if it was simply who she was. Meanwhile, Amelia Carter continued observing the situation from a different perspective. She understood both Damien and Sophia better than most people in the household. She knew Damien's careful nature came from years of protecting himself, but she also knew Sophia's actions were sincere. Amelia decided that Damien needed to recognize something important. She told him that sometimes people who are used to being surrounded by hidden intentions struggle to accept simple kindness. Damien did not respond immediately, but her words stayed with him. He realized that he had been searching for a reason to doubt Sophia, because doubt felt familiar. Trust felt unfamiliar. The next day, Damien witnessed another moment that changed his perspective. Sophia was speaking with Eleanor about future plans and small things that brought her happiness. There was no discussion about wealth, status, or expectations. It was simply a conversation between two people who genuinely cared about each other. Damien stood quietly for a moment, realizing that Sophia was not performing for anyone. She did not even know he was watching. That was when he understood the difference between an appearance and a character. An appearance could be created for an audience. Character appeared when nobody was paying attention. For the first time, Damien began feeling less like an investigator and more like someone discovering a truth he had overlooked. He was no longer only trying to determine whether Sophia could be trusted. He was starting to ask whether he had been unfair by assuming the worst before allowing someone the chance to prove the best. Yet a new question began forming in his mind. If Sophia was truly as genuine as she seemed, why did he still feel a sense that something important was about to be revealed? Damien did not know that Amelia had noticed a detail about Sophia's past that even Damien had never discovered. A truth was waiting to come forward, and when it did, it would change the way he understood the woman standing beside his family. Damien Callahan had spent years believing that every person carried a hidden intention, but now he found himself facing a different kind of uncertainty. The more he watched Sophia Bennett, the more he realized that the truth he was searching for might not be what he expected. He had looked for signs of deception, but instead he discovered patience, compassion, and a sincerity that was difficult to ignore. Yet one question remained in his mind. Why would someone like Sophia choose to care so deeply for his family without expecting anything in return? The answer was closer than he realized. Amelia Carter had noticed details that Damien had never considered. She knew that Sophia's kindness was not a recent change created by her relationship with Damien. It was part of who she had always been. One afternoon, Amelia found an old message and a forgotten record connected to Sophia's past. It revealed something surprising. Before becoming engaged to Damien, Sophia had already spent years helping families and supporting people who needed kindness. She had never spoken about it because she did not want recognition. She believed that doing the right thing did not require an audience. Amelia understood immediately why Damien needed to know this. The information did not reveal a hidden agenda. Instead, it showed that Sophia had been living according to the same values long before she entered the Callahan household. When Amelia shared what she discovered, Damien remained silent for a long time. He looked at the information carefully, realizing that every assumption he had made about Sophia was based on fear rather than facts. He had judged her because he was used to protecting himself, but he had never truly given her the chance to show him who she was. Meanwhile, Sophia continued her daily routine without knowing that Damien was learning more about her past. She spent time with Eleanor, helping her feel connected and valued. She never mentioned her own sacrifices or the things she had done for others. She simply continued being the same person Damien had quietly observed from the beginning. That was what affected him the most. Nothing about her changed when she was not trying to impress anyone. Her kindness was consistent. Her respect was natural. Her compassion was genuine. Damien began to understand that the biggest mystery was not Sophia's intentions. The biggest mystery was why he had spent so much time expecting disappointment from someone who had only shown him care. For the first time, he considered that his past experiences might have influenced the way he saw the present. He had built emotional barriers to protect himself, but those same barriers had prevented him from recognizing honesty when it appeared in front of him. Later that evening, Damien spoke with Eleanor. His mother noticed that something about him seemed different. She told him that sometimes the people who enter our lives do not come to change our world through grand gestures. Sometimes they change it through small moments of genuine care. Damien listened carefully because he knew her words were true. Sophia had never tried to prove her worth. She had simply shown it through every action. But just as Damien began accepting the truth about Sophia, another unexpected detail appeared. Amelia discovered that someone outside the family had been spreading doubts about Sophia's intentions. There was a reason someone wanted Damien to question her. And when Damien learned this, he would finally understand that the person he needed to trust was not the one hiding a secret. It was the one who had never needed to hide anything at all. Damien Callahan had spent years believing that knowing the truth about people was the key to protecting himself and his family. But now he was beginning to understand that sometimes suspicion could hide the very truth he was trying to find. After Amelia Carter revealed that someone had been spreading doubts about Sophia Bennett, Damien decided to look deeper into the situation. He did not want assumptions or rumors to influence his judgment anymore. He wanted facts. For the first time, he was not searching for a reason to question Sophia. He was searching for the reason someone wanted him to question her. Damien carefully reviewed the information Amelia had gathered. The details showed that the doubts surrounding Sophia were not based on her actions. They were created by someone who misunderstood her intentions or wanted others to misunderstand them. This discovery changed the way Damien viewed everything. He remembered every moment he had watched Sophia care for Eleanor. He remembered how she stayed patient during difficult days, how she brought comfort into the household, and how she never once used her relationship with him to gain influence. Those memories became stronger than the doubts he had carried. Meanwhile, Sophia remained unaware of the investigation happening around her. She continued focusing on Eleanor and the small moments that made her feel valued. She never asked Damien why he seemed more thoughtful lately. She never demanded explanations or attention. She simply gave him the same respect and kindness she had shown from the beginning. That consistency made Damien realize something important. A person pretending to be kind usually searched for approval. Sophia searched for nothing. Her actions existed because they reflected who she was. One evening, Damien found Sophia speaking with Eleanor in the family room. He stopped at the doorway and listened quietly. Sophia was telling Eleanor that everyone deserved to feel cared for, especially during moments when life became uncertain. Those words stayed with him because they revealed something deeper about her character. Sophia was not helping Eleanor because she was Damien's mother. She was helping her because she believed every person deserved compassion. Damien finally understood that he had been looking at Sophia through the wrong perspective. He had been measuring her by the possibility of betrayal instead of recognizing the evidence of loyalty that was already in front of him. Later, Damien spoke with Amelia and admitted that he might have allowed his past experiences to influence his decisions. Amelia reminded him that being cautious was not a weakness, but refusing to see the good in others could become a burden. Damien accepted those words because he knew they were true. For so long, he had believed that trust made people vulnerable. Now he was beginning to see that the right person could make trust feel like strength. As the days passed, Damien started treating Sophia differently. He became more open, more present, and less distant. Sophia noticed the change, but did not question it. She simply appreciated that the man she cared about was allowing himself to become more honest. However, Damien still had one important conversation ahead of him. He knew that Sophia deserved to know about his doubts and the fact that he had been observing her without telling her. He understood that trust could not be built on hidden tests. It had to be built on honesty. And when Damien finally decided to tell Sophia the truth, he knew the conversation could change everything between them. Damien Callahan knew that the conversation he was about to have with Sophia Bennett would change the way she saw him. For years, he had believed that keeping secrets was a way to protect himself and the people around him. But now he understood that honesty was the only way to build the kind of trust he wanted. Sophia had shown him kindness without knowing his struggles, and she deserved the same honesty in return. That evening, Damien asked Sophia if they could talk privately. She immediately noticed that something was different. His expression was serious, but there was no distance in his voice. For once, he was not speaking as the powerful man everyone respected. He was speaking as someone who wanted to be understood. Damien told Sophia about his doubts when they first became engaged. He admitted that he had questioned whether her feelings were genuine. He explained that because of his past experiences, he had watched her actions instead of simply trusting her words. He told her that he had observed the way she cared for Eleanor because he needed to know if her kindness was real. Sophia listened quietly as Damien shared everything. She was surprised, not because he had wanted to understand her, but because she realized how much fear had influenced his decisions. She could see that his actions came from a place of protection, but she also understood that being tested without knowing it was not easy. Damien did not try to defend himself. He did not make excuses. He simply admitted that he had been wrong. He told Sophia that the more he watched her, the more he realized she was exactly the kind of person he had hoped to find. Her compassion was not an act. Her loyalty was not something she used to gain approval. It was simply part of who she was. Sophia appreciated his honesty, but she also wanted him to understand something important. Trust was not created by watching someone from a distance. It was created by communicating, sharing fears, and allowing another person to understand the truth. Damien listened carefully because he knew she was right. For someone who had spent years controlling every situation, accepting that lesson was not easy. But Sophia had never asked him to become someone else. She only wanted him to let people see the person behind the reputation. Later that evening, Damien visited his mother. Eleanor immediately noticed that something had changed. She saw a calmness in her son that had not been there before. Damien told her that he had finally understood the difference between protecting himself and closing himself off from others. Eleanor smiled because she had always believed that the right people could help someone become better without changing who they were. Meanwhile, Amelia watched the family slowly become closer. She knew that the biggest change was not happening in the household. It was happening inside Damien himself. He was learning that love and trust could not be measured through control. They had to be experienced through openness. As the days passed, Damien and Sophia began rebuilding their relationship on a stronger foundation. They were no longer connected only by an engagement or family expectations. They were connected by understanding. However, Damien still had one concern remaining. He wanted to discover who had tried to create doubts about Sophia and why they wanted to damage the trust between them. Because now, protecting Sophia was no longer about proving whether she was honest. It was about making sure the truth finally reached everyone. Damien Callahan had spent years believing that protecting his family meant keeping every detail under control, but after his conversation with Sophia Bennett, he began to understand that true protection also required honesty. He no longer wanted to search for reasons to doubt the people around him. Instead, he wanted to discover the truth with an open mind. The mystery surrounding the doubts placed on Sophia became the next challenge he needed to face. Damien asked Amelia Carter to help him understand where the rumors had started. He trusted Amelia because she had always been observant and fair. She never judged people based only on appearances. She looked at actions, patterns, and the details others ignored. Together, they reviewed the information that had created uncertainty around Sophia. What they discovered surprised Damien. The doubts were not based on anything Sophia had done. They came from carefully arranged misunderstandings and incomplete information that made her appear different from who she truly was. Damien felt disappointed, but not because of Sophia. He felt disappointed because he realized how quickly he had allowed suspicion to influence his thoughts. He remembered how easily he had believed that kindness could have hidden motives. Now he saw that his own fears had almost prevented him from recognizing someone genuine. Meanwhile, Sophia continued becoming closer with Eleanor. She never mentioned the rumors or the questions surrounding her. She did not even know that Damien had been investigating the situation. She simply continued showing the same compassion she had shown from the beginning. That consistency became the strongest proof of her character. Damien noticed that Sophia was not affected by attention or recognition. Whether people praised her or ignored her, she remained the same person. That was something he respected deeply. One afternoon, Damien watched Sophia help Eleanor organize old family photographs. They laughed together while remembering important moments from the past. Damien stood nearby and realized that his home felt different because of her presence. For years, the Callahan household had been filled with responsibility and caution. Sophia had brought warmth without trying to change anyone. She had simply added something that had been missing. Later, Damien spoke with Sophia about what he had learned. This time, he did not approach the conversation as someone seeking answers. He approached it as someone who wanted to share his thoughts honestly. He told her that he finally understood her actions had never been about gaining acceptance. They were about compassion. Sophia appreciated that Damien was learning to trust, but she reminded him that relationships required more than recognizing mistakes. They required continuous effort and communication. Damien agreed because he knew she was right. He had spent so much time protecting himself from disappointment that he forgot trust was also a way of connecting with people. As Damien continued searching for the source of the rumors, he discovered another important detail. The person responsible was not someone who wanted to harm Sophia directly. Instead, it was someone who misunderstood the situation and allowed assumptions to grow without knowing the full story. This discovery changed Damien's perspective again. He realized that sometimes the greatest problems were created not by intentional actions, but by people refusing to seek the truth. With Sophia beside him and Amelia helping him see things clearly, Damien felt that his life was becoming more balanced. He was still the same person who valued loyalty and responsibility, but now he was learning to combine those qualities with understanding and patience. For the first time, Damien was not simply protecting his family from the outside world. He was building a family where honesty and trust could exist. And as Eleanor's health improved, everyone in the household began to see that the greatest change was not the situation around them. It was the transformation within Damien himself. Damien Callahan had spent years believing that strength came from never showing uncertainty, but his journey with Sophia Bennett had taught him something he never expected. Real strength was not about controlling every situation. It was about having the courage to trust the right people. As the truth behind the rumors became clearer, Damien felt a sense of peace he had not experienced in a long time. He no longer felt the need to question every action or search for hidden meanings behind every word. For the first time, he allowed himself to appreciate the people around him without constantly expecting disappointment. Sophia noticed the change in Damien. The man who once seemed distant and guarded was becoming more open. He started sharing his thoughts instead of keeping everything inside. He began asking for opinions instead of making every decision alone. These small changes meant more to Sophia than any grand gesture because they showed that Damien was truly trying to grow. Eleanor Callahan also noticed the difference. She had always understood her son better than anyone else. She knew that behind his serious personality was someone who cared deeply about the people he loved. Seeing him trust Sophia brought her happiness because she knew he had finally found someone who saw beyond his reputation. One afternoon, Eleanor spoke privately with Sophia and thanked her for bringing warmth back into the family. Sophia smiled and explained that she never intended to change anything. She simply wanted Eleanor to feel valued and supported. Eleanor told her that sometimes the people who enter our lives do not need to change us. They simply remind us of the parts of ourselves we may have forgotten. Those words stayed with Sophia because she realized that Damien's transformation was not only about their relationship. It was about him finding a healthier way to live. Meanwhile, Damien continued learning more about the misunderstanding that created doubts around Sophia. He discovered that the situation began because someone made assumptions without knowing the full story. Instead of creating anger, this realization gave him a different perspective. He understood that not every problem required conflict. Sometimes problems were solved through patience, communication, and understanding. Amelia Carter was proud to see how much Damien had changed. She remembered the man who once watched everyone carefully because he expected betrayal. Now she saw someone who was willing to listen before making decisions. She knew Sophia had not changed Damien into someone else. She had simply helped him feel comfortable enough to become the person he truly wanted to be. As the months passed, the Callahan household became a place filled with more connection and openness. Conversations became easier. Laughter became more common. The walls that had separated people slowly disappeared. Damien and Sophia continued building their relationship on honesty and respect. They understood that trust was not created through one important moment. It was created through countless small choices made every day. Damien no longer looked at Sophia as someone he needed to test. He looked at her as someone he was grateful to have beside him. Sophia no longer saw Damien only as a powerful man with a complicated past. She saw someone who was brave enough to admit his mistakes and continue growing. Yet one final challenge remained. Damien knew that his past and his position still carried expectations from the outside world. He wondered if the peaceful life they created together could survive when faced with those expectations. But this time, he was not facing the future alone. He had learned that trust was not a weakness. It was the foundation that allowed people to stand stronger together. Damien Callahan had once believed that his life was defined by responsibility, reputation, and the constant need to protect everything he cared about. For years, he carried the weight of being the person everyone depended on, but he rarely allowed anyone to understand the person behind that role. His journey with Sophia Bennett changed that in ways he never expected. The woman he once watched with uncertainty became the person who showed him the meaning of genuine trust. As time passed, Damien realized that the greatest change in his life was not the way others viewed him. It was the way he viewed himself. He no longer measured relationships by suspicion or searched for hidden intentions. Instead, he learned to appreciate the honesty and kindness that existed around him. Sophia continued to be the same person Damien noticed from the beginning. She never changed because of his position, his influence, or the expectations surrounding his family. She remained thoughtful, patient, and sincere. That consistency was what made Damien understand that true character was revealed through everyday actions, not through impressive words. Eleanor Callahan became one of the strongest reminders of how much Sophia had changed the atmosphere of the household. The home that once felt quiet and distant became a place where conversations flowed naturally and moments were shared more openly. Eleanor often told Damien that people sometimes spend years searching for something valuable while ignoring what is already in front of them. Damien knew exactly what she meant. He had spent so much time searching for proof that someone could disappoint him that he almost missed the proof that someone could truly care. Amelia Carter also remained an important part of their journey. She was the person who noticed the truth before anyone else and helped Damien understand what he could not see clearly on his own. Amelia never tried to take credit for bringing the truth forward. She simply believed that people deserved to be judged fairly. Her honesty reminded Damien that loyalty was not always shown through grand actions. Sometimes it appeared through quiet support and simple words spoken at the right moment. As Damien and Sophia continued building their future together, they understood that their relationship was not perfect because they never faced challenges. It was meaningful because they learned how to face challenges together. Damien learned that trust required vulnerability. Sophia learned that even the strongest people sometimes needed patience and understanding. They did not change each other. They helped each other become more complete versions of themselves. Months later, Damien looked back on the moment when he first decided to observe Sophia from a distance. He remembered believing that he needed to discover whether she was worthy of his trust. Now he understood that the real lesson had been about himself. He needed to learn whether he was willing to let someone become close enough to truly know him. The answer changed everything. Damien no longer saw love as a risk that could leave him disappointed. He saw it as a choice that could bring peace and meaning. Sophia no longer stood beside him because of an engagement or family expectation. She stood beside him because they had built something real. Their story became a reminder that people are not defined by their past, their status, or the opinions of others. They are defined by the choices they make and the way they treat those around them. In the end, Damien did not find trust because he discovered a perfect person. He found trust because he finally allowed himself to believe that genuine people still existed. And Sophia proved that sometimes the greatest truths are revealed not through what people say, but through what they quietly do when nobody is watching.